Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. The
Good morning.
the session.
I'm at home. I'm
is
at home, and I have to tell you that my nephew just came to get my compost, and so I'm gonna wave at him.
Very nice of him.
Very nice of him.
Very
Because we had Dairy Day at the Capitol this week, and so it was before when I was writing a courtesy for Dairy Day, I discovered that I had been flocked.
Yes.
Because it's charity drive, and 10 days of intensive charity drive work for the students of THS. So I've been flocked. My neighbor sent me a picture, even though I wasn't home. I had, 13, 15 flamingos in my front yard. And, you have to pay to have them taken away, and then you have to pay to get an insurance policy so they won't come back.
Yes. That is quite the racket that they have going on there, right?
Those kids, if there's any way they can figure out how to make money, they will do it.
Well, that's great. For those of you who don't know, who may not be from Tillamook County or really close surrounding areas, Tillamook High School does a charity drive over 10 days. They'll do anything. They'll do a dinner, they'll do a concert, they'll do mow lawns, like scrap metal, wash cars. Wash cars is great when it's like 40 degrees and pouring down rain.
Yes.
Yes. And that money half of that money goes to Dornbecker Children's Hospital.
Yes.
And the other half goes to grants to local nonprofit groups. So
right. And scholarships, because it is a great provider of scholarships also. This is the 73rd year that they have been doing this. Over the 73 years, they have collected $4.6 million.
Yeah,
to be able to give back to the community.
Right.
My husband was in on one of the first years, and I think that we're looking at now raising over $200,000 in 10 days. Wow. They were thrilled to death to raise 600.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was there, I think altogether we might have done $100,000, $150,000, and it was a record. I mean, they'd never done that much before.
Yes.
So, and now they're going upwards of 200. That is something special. Well, we have a lot to talk about, and we always like to keep these brief during session. So let's get to some things that have happened over this last week, as well as some things that are going to be coming up over the next week. Let's talk about the thing everybody's talking about first. That's SB 1599.
1599, yes.
Tell us about that. Tell us what happened.
Well, what happened was they, that is changing the date of the election on the referendum.
Right.
From November to May, in case anyone hasn't heard the thing we've been talking about ad nauseum. And this week, it was discovered that the committee that was put together to discuss this was not adequate from the House side. And so more House members had to be added to that committee. Now, while I was in the conduct committee last night, they were having their meeting. So I couldn't go and see, but I am going to go back and look. And what happened was that 1599, with an amendment to, hack off the bottom part of the bill, was passed. And it will go to the House because it is a House bill.
Right. Yes.
It had unanimous Democrat support.
Yes, it is unfortunate. It's a committee of 8, 5 of which are Democrats, 3 of which are Republicans. As you mentioned, all 3 Republicans voted nay, and all 5 Democrats voted aye. I think this is an important bill, and I think there's some folks who are probably saying, well, who cares? We're going to get to vote on it. Who cares? Well, here's a couple of things to think about. First of all, there are a lot of people who do not vote in primaries. They just don't.
They don't.
So they're not going to have the option, or they're not going to be able to, or they just won't voice their opinion. Also of note, you get more people who are partisan voting because you have your partisan primaries. The Republicans are going to be voting for example, for a nominee for governor. The Democrats probably aren't going to really have a contested primary, even though they'll
be most likely
vote, but the governor's running again. There are going to be some areas that independents just aren't going to be interested in going. And independents are the largest, independents being non-affiliated.
Right. They have not chosen a party to be affiliated with.
Or they're third party. And so choose their nominees a different way. Those folks may not vote. And so
here's the thing, they can vote.
We do need to be clear. If you're an independent, a third party, or a nonpartisan, you will get a ballot. I mean, it's not like you're not going to get a ballot. It's just that one of the concerns we have is that fewer people vote in primaries than vote in general elections, because people just aren't paying attention as much. And especially if your party doesn't really have a primary, or your community doesn't have a primary, like there's nothing really contested, you're probably going to be paying a little less attention. And so you're going to be less apt to actually voice. And the Democrats have made it very clear that they've said it. I mean, President Wagner said it. This is 100% political. The only reason they're doing this is because they know this is incredibly unpopular, that they know it's going to fail, and they don't want it to drag them down in the general election so they hold seats. That's the only reason they're doing it.
That's it.
Purely political. I hand it to them. They're being honest about it.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
but the thing is, if you think about it, they're still not listening to the people.
Right.
Now they have well over 4,000 pieces of testimony currently telling them, saying, don't do this. Don't do this. But, I guess 250,000 people who voted, or who, signed on to the petition, or the 4,000 people who are expressing themselves, they're not going to be heard. I mean, they're being heard, but their opinions are not going to be honored.
Dirk Vanderhart is a reporter with OPB, I believe, and he was going through the testimony, counting it. And I don't think it had all come in yet, but when he counted it, it was something somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 pieces of testimony. And of those 2,000 to 3,000, 30 were in favor. 30. 30 of people were in favor. When people signed that petition, it had the election date on it.
Yes, it did.
So people were saying, this is the date I wanted to vote. And the Democrats just said, we don't care. We don't think it really matters. Which is unfortunate. It's very nihilistic, I think.
Well, it'll be interesting when it gets to the floor as to how people.
Yeah, it will be very, very interesting. So it is good, as you mentioned, it will go to the House floor first. Then it will come to the Senate, and since that was a joint committee, I don't believe it will really need to go through a committee. So it will then go to the floor there, and you guys will vote. And I don't see a world where this doesn't pass, because just for pure political reasons, the Democrats don't want to be held accountable on this.
They don't.
But
and there are ways of funding ODOT with the current amount of money.
Oh yes,
that it would be fine. And what's been really interesting is, as I walk through the halls on my way to hearings, I see ODOT employees there to testify and to speak to legislators about these very things. Employees of ODOT.
Right. On company time.
Yes.
If they're not on company time, that means they're on their own time, which means they really could be working, but they chose not to.
Right.
you had a bill. The Republicans had a bill that would have funded ODOT at the level of the service levels that we were at.
Right.
No taxes being raised,
Right.
and that just wasn't good enough for them. And here we are, and there's lots of money and time and effort being spent, unfortunately, to achieve essentially nothing. Very unfortunate.
Well, except the only thing it's achieving is more tension between groups of people.
Yeah.
And everybody's saying kinder, gentler world. That's what we need to be embracing. Well, the kinder, more gentle world embraces other people's opinions and honors them.
Yeah. Well, nothing kind and gentle about the legislature.
No.
I think that's.
Somebody said it's a blood sport. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. Politics is a blood sport. So that's where we're at on SB 1599. I wish I was a little less fatalistic about it, but the chances are it is going to pass, and you'll be voting on. The voters of Oregon will be voting on whether to tax themselves more with gas tax and fees, or not to, and they'll probably be doing that in May. And we'll
yes,
keep
and you know what I'm on a committee, an oversight committee for transportation, and we heard people from Colorado, Minnesota, and Washington, D.C. talking about a Fix-It program. And so I asked the questions, okay, we're talking Fix-It. You're not talking anything about transportation involving the movement of goods, but you're touting this as a way to save transportation. And I said, well, so how much is your gas tax? Well, I think in Minnesota, it's 30 cents a gallon. Colorado, it's 20 cents a gallon. So Colorado and Minnesota are most likely taking money out of their general fund. Maybe we ought to start really looking at how we fund transportation in a different way.
Well, and in order to do that, we should probably start thinking about what else we're funding that we don't really need to fund.
Right.
I mean, how many?
What we put in that funding pot that we don't need to be funding.
Right. I mean, how many state agencies have DEI agencies that at the tune of 6-7 figures per department? Right. I mean,
right.
Not really. Do we really want to be spending money there? How many? How much money is being wasted here or there? I mean,
and how is it being spent? Who is that money going to?
Right. How many task forces do we have going on to study something? I mean, anyway, we've talked about this a lot, and we will continue to talk about it, but we do need to move on because we have some other bills that we're excited about that we want to talk about. Let's talk about first SB 1504. This was a bill we talked about for the delivery of epinephrine in schools.
Right.
Usually for folks who go into anaphylactic shock, they have what these people call an EpiPen.
Right.
That's kind of the colloquial way of using it, but technically it's against the rules to have those things in schools.
Well, EpiPens are legal, but it's the alternate delivery systems that are not legal in schools. And so had a young lady from Senator Wagner's district write me a letter pleading her case at the end of session last year. And since it was in President Wagner's district, he and I got together and we put a bill together to allow ways of administering the epinephrine in different ways that have come about since the passage of the bill, and then to make it possible for, if there are additional alternate ways to be able to deliver the bill, that also can be used, especially in schools.
Right. I think the way you phrased it was really useful because the way the law was written, it had to be an injectable, a pre-measured injectable dose, right?
Right.
So it had to be pre-measured, and it could only be injected. So they used specific language to describe an EpiPen. The way you changed it to is just a pre-measured dose.
Right.
So if medical science advances like it has here, I mean, they have a nasal spray now. That as long as the dose is pre-measured, I mean, you can't have somebody with a vial and a syringe pulling it,
Right. Yeah. No, but
which we wouldn't want anyway.
right.
But if it's a pre-measured dose, no matter what the delivery system is, it's going to be okay for schools, and we won't have to come back and do this again.
Right. And you know what was pointed out to me as after we had voted on the bill, and of course it passed unanimously, which was exciting for us.
Yes.
One of our senators has a son who is extremely allergic to certain things, and he also has a morbid fear of needles. And so, you know, he goes into an allergy situation, and somebody pulls out a EpiPen to give him an injection, and he passes out.
Oh,
so, you know, there's all sorts of things like that. And the thing with the nasal spray, it may actually get to the cause sooner than the EpiPen being injected.
Well, excellent. This is one of those great bills where you make a small alteration to a law, and then you can really affect positively some people. We are recording this on Friday the 13th.
Yes, we are.
So,
what a day.
Yes, indeed. As of right now, that bill has, as you said, passed unanimously out of the Senate. And the House will be having their first reading of the bill on Monday. So we don't know where it's going yet. It's going to go to a committee in the House. We don't know where that's going to be. But hopefully we will have an update for you so that you can reach out to whatever committee that is and either help us ask them for a hearing, and if we already have that scheduled, be able to submit testimony. So,
and you know what was really cool is the young lady that brought that concept forward, and her mother and her little sister were there for the hearing in committee, and they were also in the building for the vote on the bill.
That's so cool. You know, I think things like that will change that young lady's life. Certainly the policy concept changing is important, but the fact that one of her ideas initiated a change in the law, that's going to be something she remembers for the rest of her life. It may change the direction of her life going forward. So that's just so cool. I loved when I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So that's 1504. The next one we want to talk about, another kind of happy one that we hope gets across the finish line, is HB 4112. This was another one that you have a strong heart for, about outdoor school funding. Talk about this one.
Yes. You know how strongly I support outdoor school. You know that being over here at Wilson School for 30 years and seeing kids go to outdoor school, cementing their relationships, building their confidence, gaining educational skills, and then coming back into 6th grade or, was so important. Mm-hmm. Being able to, and a lot of them had never been away from their parents, never been away from home for more than 5 days. And they had never built those deep connections by sitting around a campfire and singing songs and doing skits and building those community skills. And it is something that we need to support and we need to fund. And that's what we needed. I testified on that, and so did Representative Boomer Wright, about the impact of it. And Boomer is called Boomer because it's an outdoor school name.
Right. His real name is, I believe, Dwayne. But he goes by Boomer because his voice is so loud. You could hear him coming in the halls. Yeah, I was one of those kids. Like when I was at South Prairie School, I had not. I've been away from my parents but I'd never been away from family. Like I always with my grandparents if my
Yes.
parents were gone, right? But so I had never been away from my family for that long,
Right.
for 4 nights, 5 days. And so I was pretty freaked out, to be perfectly honest. And it really was life changing, and it really
Right.
leadership.
And, at the beginning of the week, when they leave, get on the bus to go, there are tears.
Right.
Because they have fears about what's going to be happening.
Right.
Are they going to be accepted? Are they going to like the food? Where are they going to sleep? All of these things are churning in their minds. When they come back and they get off the bus, there's tears also. But it's separation anxiety from those wonderful lifelong friends that they have made.
Right. And the great thing is that they are in 6th grade, and in Tillamook, you go on to 7th grade, and it's different now because
It's different now.
Like I was there, you went to your elementary school for 7 years, kindergarten through 6th grade. And so that was your life. You had been in that school for
that
half
was your
your
whole
life.
community.
Yeah, for more than half your life. So when you went to 7th grade, things were wholly different. And so you actually met a lot of those kids that you were going to see the next year at outdoor school. So it actually took some of the edge off, at least did for me, seeing these kids that I remembered from outdoor school. So the purpose of the bill is that there was a 20% funding cut for outdoor school,
right?
I believe in 2025, and the purpose of this bill is to restore it through lottery dollars.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, because it's funded through lottery dollars.
Right. So you have a very large number of you. So you're one of the chief co-sponsors. You have a very large number of sponsors on here. I would be surprised if assuming this gets to the floor, that if it would not pass. So it has where it's at now is we've had the public hearing. That deadline passed. It has a work session, so it has a vote this coming Monday. So by the time you're watching this, it's probably already happened.
Yes.
We have,
and it will go to Ways and Means.
Yeah, we assume it will pass because of the makeup of the committee. It will then go to Ways and Means, and really that is the key because it's Ways and Means who decides what the budgets come out as and who spends the money.
They're the people that are stirring the money around.
Right.
Yes.
So in theory, that bill could die there, and
it could.
That is the most likely place for it to die, is in Ways and Means. So we're gonna keep at it on this bill. We're gonna keep working on it. We'll remind you to when we get a little closer in, when it actually gets to Ways and Means, to give you a way to encourage Ways and Means to push that bill out. But that is just if you're taking notes.
If you have been impacted by outdoor school, submitting your testimony is extremely important. And you have ways of doing that, as Adam has told you over and over again, by going to OLIS, going to the committee, going to the particular meeting. They have a button right there for you to submit testimony.
And even if you're not submitting things for the record, just emailing the members of the committee separately. At least the chair of the committee or the co-chairs of the committee in Ways and Means, it is helpful, even though it's not technically on the record, quote unquote. It is helpful to reach out to them.
It's keeping it on, front of mind.
Yeah,
and that's
so that's where we are with HB 4112. One more, we talked about this, and we've talked about this a number of times, but we do want to give an update on HB 4148, which is the PLT bill. So give us a brief update or give a brief reminder of what that bill is, and then tell us where we're at. Right.
It basically is reallocating the 70-30 that has been in play for over 20 years for a transient lodging tax to a 40-60. So that 40, it was 70% of that money was going to attract additional tourists to the area. Well, we suffer all of our infrastructure. When the tourists go home, we have to put things back together. We have to rescue people. We have law enforcement issues that need to be sustained. So what we did was we turned that upside down. And in this iteration, 40% of it will be going to attract additional tourists. And the other 60% will go to things that are necessary to be able to maintain tourism.
Right.
And it'll be decided by the municipality or the group.
Right.
And the other thing that this week, there is an additional amendment to it, because we felt that some of, what Orla does need and small business needs is additional help during those shoulder seasons. And so it makes not only to be able to address law enforcement and emergency services, but to address the needs of small business.
Right. That was a very ingenious thing to add, I think. I do want to clarify a few things. Is that 70% right now, or if this bill passes, 40% after, that is the floor. Like,
yes.
That you have to spend at least right now 70% of the money that comes in versus the TLT from the TLT, you must spend it on tourism promotion or tourism related facilities. It has to be one of those two things. You can spend more than that on those things if you as a community decide to do that, but you must put the floor has to be 70%. And if this changes, it will be 40%. There is no ceiling though. So
right.
If you want to, as a community, you live in the city of Tillamook, and you say, we still need more tourists in Tillamook, we're going to spend 100% of the money that we get from TLT on
encourage that. Yes.
To encourage tourism. You can do that as a community.
Yes.
What this does is it takes a little bit more of the money, and puts it at the discretion of your local community,
right.
Your elected officials,
your city. So much better than I do. Thank you.
Well, my pleasure. It's what you pay me for. To make sure that they get to decide, or if a community says, you know what, we as a community should decide and put it to the voters, they can do that as well.
Yes,
this is not saying we're taking 40% away from tourism. That is not what it is. If a community decides that they want to leave that money with tourism, they can
do it.
They do not. They are not required to, however, because if the community says, you know what, we love our tourists, but they're coming whether we advertise or not, what we desperately need is another half a dozen police officers and emergency rescue folks, so that when folks start driving into ditches and hurting themselves because we've got 3 times the number of people than we ever have here, we need the extra people to deal with that. So I think there's been some misinformation going around, intentional or not intentional, I don't know, saying that we're taking this money away from tourism. That is not what's happening in the state. No. They're just opening it up to the discretion of your local communities.
Right. And we have to look at places like Clatsop County and their need for additional money for law enforcement.
Right.
And you have to look at the percentage of like 30-some% of people who are in jail during the high tourism months that don't have Clatsop County for a zip code.
Right. Well,
and you have to look at Seaside. Seaside has what, $11-12 million. I was talking to the mayor yesterday, and I didn't ask him what the current amount was, but it's right around $11-12 million.
So they don't know what to do with.
They don't know what to do with. And municipalities, you look, there's a bridge on one of the streets in Seaside that takes you up out of the tsunami zone and up into the school area that needs to be replaced.
Right.
Okay, why couldn't we then, in fact, and if this bill passes like this, use that money to be able to do that? And I'm not saying they're going to do that, but that is something that they could use then for an option to be able to spend that money on.
Right. And, I think one of the things that we need to also realize is that because of the extremist environmental decisions that have been made by our state forestry department and the Board of Forestry and
Yes.
by the legislature. A lot of the timber dollars, which Clatsop County, Tillamook County, other counties rely on, has been taken away.
Right.
Because of the
Even
most
Washington County. Yes.
because of the most recent HCP, the Habitat Conservation Plan. So you look at Clatsop County, they're looking at options because they've had funding ripped away. One of the options is, well, we can eliminate some law enforcement officers and some fire departments. Now, that's one option. We could do that. That's probably not good for tourists. Probably definitely not good for locals. Another option is, well, we could raise taxes on the locals.
Right.
Well, that's probably not going to be very popular. Or here's another idea. We can not raise taxes on the locals, not raise taxes on anyone, but just shift restricted funds to be less restricted.
Right.
That way, everybody wants that.
Yeah. Everybody wins that way.
Right. So
Yeah.
I understand that some folks are concerned that this is maybe the camel's nose under the tent, but really, 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 like, what can we? How do we support our emergency services? And
Right.
how do we support our fire departments and our all of these services that keep the money keeps getting taken away?
And it also, encompasses the expensive rescues we have to use, and the fact that most of our fire departments are volunteer run.
Right.
And the tax, I'm not saying money, I'm saying the tax on their lifestyle, because they are always working to save some tourist from some unfortunate decision that they made.
Right. So they go up over the big sandhill dune in Pacific City at the wayside. They go up, they go past the sign that says "Do not pass this sign," and they end up rolling down the hill.
Right. Or the dog jumps over the cliff, and you got to bring a helicopter in to rescue the dog.
Exactly. You're not bringing a little motorbike to go hit these people. You're bringing a helicopter. And you know what they don't do after that? They don't send a bill.
No.
You know who gets the bill? The voters of Tillamook County. When
Yes.
that happens, the taxpayers of Tillamook County, they get the bill. So this sort of money
if our volunteers don't have arrangements with their employers, they're also losing wages.
Right.
And the replacement is not anywhere near what they what their earned wages.
That's a good point. Is that a lot of those fire departments, they get these calls to come help. They're volunteer fire departments.
Yes.
So that means if they have an agreement, so maybe you got a waiter at Pelican Pub in Pacific City, he gets a call who's also a volunteer fire department. He gets a call to go to a call to rescue a tourist. That means we've got the bills to just run the equipment and all that. Plus, you've lost wages and help at a local restaurant because their clientele isn't getting serviced as fast as they should. Money is lost there. It is a ripple effect. Everybody loses.
Everybody loses. Yes.
Right. So here's where we're at on this one. We had a public hearing on the 9th. It was a great hearing. I think we did really well in House revenue.
And you know what was really, really exciting was I know it was county the AOC, American
Association of Oregon Counties.
Association of Oregon Counties was there in force to hear the county commissioners testify on how this would impact their counties and how tourism is impacting their counties.
Yeah. I also appreciated having several law enforcement officers speak to how that they are affected by.
Clatsop County Sheriff was there. Yes.
Yeah. So this has not been scheduled for a vote yet. We need this to be scheduled. We're coming up on deadlines. I know it's in a revenue committee, so the deadlines are a little less important.
They're a little different. They're a little less strict.
But the chamber deadlines still exist.
Right.
So we do have deadlines on when this bill needs to get out of the House and over to the Senate. So if you would go to olis.oregonlegislature.gov and look at the House Committee on Revenue, you can see all of the members. You specifically would like to send a respectful request email to Representative Nancy Nathanson. I believe she's from the Eugene area. She is the chair of that committee, so she gets to decide the agenda. She gets to decide when and if this bill will get a vote. So please reach out to Chair Nancy Nathanson and ask her to please schedule HB 4148 for a work session. That is the official name of the meeting where it will happen.
And if it gets positively through the work session, then it can go to the floor of the House to be voted on, and then it can come over to the Senate.
Yep. And then we've got to do this all over again. And remember, we only have until the beginning of March to get this all done. So we're already happy for February.
Which is unfortunate because, you know, we came up against deadlines at the end of the long session regarding this bill also.
Right.
And so, you know, this is something, when you see the number of communities that have endorsed this, and you see the impact that it can have across the state, it's something we need to have accomplished.
Right. Senator, we've already run longer than we wanted to.
Oh, we did it again.
Yeah, we did it again. But we did have a lot of stuff that we needed to kind of. There was no small chat. There was no small talk. We got right to it. So we did need to talk about these things. But everyone will be back next week with another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber, and we'll be able to talk to you about what happened and how we need your help going forward as we get through this short session. So, Senator, any last words you want to say before we take off?
I do want to say happy Valentine's Day and happy President's Day.
Yes, yes.
We'll be working on President's Day.
Indeed,
we will take that off.
Indeed.
So we have, you know, full committees and full meetings and full caucus. We're on it.
Indeed. No rest for the weary. Yeah. All right, Senator. Thank you very much for joining me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and engaging with us. We really appreciate it. We hope this is helpful for you, and we'll see you next week.